Buying a home is arguably one of the biggest decisions that you will ever make. So understanding the process, having the right people in your corner, and having the right knowledge can make a huge difference. Now, whether it's your first time buying a home or you're a seasoned vet and you've purchased homes in the past, in today's video, I'm going to talk about the 50 biggest tips that I can give you if you're thinking about buying a home in 2025. Hey everyone, I'm Andrew Kolakowski, local real estate agent and team leader of Living in Niagara Real Estate Group at eXp Realty. Now, my team helps hundreds of people just like you buy and sell real estate here in the Niagara region, and we absolutely love it. So if that person's you and you're thinking of buying, selling, relocating, whether it be now or in the future, do yourself a favor, reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. You guys are always welcome to call, text, DM, or a favorite, schedule a Zoom call so we can do a meet and greet and figure out how we can help you. Now back to the video. Now in this video, I've broken it down into 5 main buckets. And beginning with the first bucket, that is going to be mortgage and financial tips. Now this one probably seems super obvious, and that is making sure you're getting pre-approved for your finance before you go out shopping. We see this happen a lot. People scrolling through realtor.ca or social media, they find out one house they really like. However, a lot of the time they're behind the 8 ball because they don't have their financial pre-approval in place. This will save you tons of time. You'll be much more locked and loaded and ready to buy if you have that financial pre-approval in place. And the second one is making sure you understand and compare mortgage rates. Now, my biggest piece of advice is I always recommend my clients to work with a mortgage broker. The mortgage broker, they have all the tools in their tool belt, working with all various types of lenders, big banks to B lenders to even private lenders. So make sure you reach out to a broker, have a chat with them, and understand what type of mortgage rate you're going to be in for. And 3, understanding your credit score. Again, this may seem very obvious, but a lot of people actually don't know what their credit score is. This is all going to be part of the pre-approval and the financial portion of making sure you have your checks and balances in place before you buy a house. And the 4th is don't max out your budget. Just because you've been pre-approved for a certain amount does not mean you have to spend that maximum amount of money. By not maxing out on your budget, this just gives you a slight peace of mind that if something does happen or come up that you need to spend some money on, you have that buffer. And 5 is consider future interest rate changes, whether interest rates go up or interest rates go down. As you know, over the past few years, our interest rates have gone up significantly over the past 24 months, and anticipating that can be sometimes nearly impossible. So making sure that you understand that that could happen, lean on your mortgage broker, get the proper financial advice so you are prepared if that does happen. And 6 is budget for closing costs. I can't stress this one enough. There's always these unforeseen costs that people don't think about when they go to close on a property. So make sure you have your T's crossed, your I's dotted, you've connected with your real estate agent, you've connected with your lawyer so you know exactly what you're up against when it comes to closing time. And 7 is make sure you check for any first-time home buyer incentives if you are a first-time home buyer. Again, leaning on your mortgage broker, they're the ones that are really going to help you and guide you towards any programs that may be available to you at that moment in time. And 8 is save for a larger down payment. Don't force buying a house because somebody's telling you to do it. Having a larger down payment is only going to help reduce your monthly mortgage costs as well as any type of insurance costs. And number 9 is make sure you understand the difference between variable and fixed mortgage rates. Again, lean on your mortgage broker to give you the sound advice before making that final decision. And number 10, this is a big one. Do not change employment before you purchase your house, or if you're in the middle of buying a house and getting your financials in place, do not make any significant financial decisions, whether it be buying a car, quitting your job and starting a new job. These are key things in order to get your proper financing in place before buying a house. And moving on to the second bucket is making sure you choose the right location. Now, do your research before you buy that specific house in that neighborhood. Lean on your realtor. Make sure they educate you on the pros and cons of the various neighborhoods and where you're considering buying that house. Choosing the right location can significantly put you in a much better position for resale down the road. 12 is check school ratings. It's amazing how high-rated schools typically are located in sought-after neighborhoods. Whether you have kids or not, high-rated schools definitely will enhance your resale value in the future. And 13 is take the time to drive through these various neighborhoods that you're considering at different times of the day. You'd be amazed how different neighborhoods offer different things throughout different times of the day, whether it be morning, afternoon, or night. Take the time to take a drive through a few times to kind of get a sense of how the neighborhood vibes are overall. And number 14 is consider the proximity to your work and transit. Obviously, the closer you are to work, typically it's a lot more convenient. If you don't have a car, then obviously making sure you're close to public transportation is also a very important thing. And 15 is look into future development plans within the radius of your community. Future development plans can be a good thing, but sometimes it can also be a bad thing. So make sure you do your research, go online, visit city websites, and find out if there's going to be any type of changes in the future within the radius of your neighborhood. And number 16 is talk to the neighbors. This is a super underrated tip that I recommend buyers do. It happens to me all the time when I'm working with buyers and visiting a property. If neighbors are outside, there's nothing wrong with saying hi, how long have you lived here? Really just have some small talk to get a general feel of how the neighbors like the neighborhood. You'd be amazed what kind of information you'll be able to find out. And 17 is check for flood zones. Now, not much of an issue here in the Niagara region, other than certain areas that may be close to Lake Erie or Lake Ontario, but for the most part, these things we don't have to really worry about. It's one of those things that working with your realtor, make sure that you are not looking at a home in an area that may be at risk for any type of flooding. And number 18 is research the property taxes before you buy. There's nothing worse than getting any type of surprise when it comes to property taxes. Now, in most cases, any resale home will have the property taxes listed in the actual listing, as well as your agent will give you some guidance and advice when it comes to what the property taxes are. Also, another super handy tool that I recommend buyers use. Here in Niagara, we have what's called the Niagara Tax Calculator. You can find that online, a quick Google search. You can plug in the assessment value, and within seconds, it will populate what the property taxes are in any city within the Niagara region. And 19 is understanding the condo fees or HOA fees if you are purchasing a common element or a condo. This is very, very important. Now, typically the process is we would have a condition in your offer for the lawyer to review the status and condo documents ahead of time, making sure there are no surprises with regards to fees, rules, anything of that nature. And 20, very important, especially for people nowadays that maybe work from home, is having an internet connection that is suffice to what you want. Now, every area is a little bit different here in the Niagara region. Some areas offer high speed, Bell 5, Cogeco, so there's different areas that offer different types of services. So before you buy that house, if internet and cable is important to you and those types of services, do your due diligence and research to make sure that those services are offered ahead of time. And moving on to the third bucket, and that is choosing the right home. And 21 is don't let staging fool you. Now, in this day and age, staging can do wonders, but when you're walking through these homes with your realtor, make sure you're looking through all the nooks and crannies, under rugs, things like that, because be amazed the things that you will miss by only walking through a house 1 or 2 times. And 22 is visit open houses and do your research and understand what homes have sold within the area, as well as what homes are actually being sold for in current market value. And number 23 is make a must-have list and a nice-to-have list. Obviously, when buying a house, it's nearly impossible to get exactly what you want. And I always tell my buyer clients to prioritize the things that you really want and then the things that will be nice to have, and it'll make the purchase go much smoother and much easier. Number 24 is think about resale value. This is very, very important. When I'm working with buyers, it's my job to shed the light on allowing them to think about future plans. A lot of people get caught up in emotions and they're not thinking about 5-10 years down the road when buying that specific house. People's needs, wants, and priorities change through the years. So these are the type of things you want to think about before pulling the trigger on that house. Now, 25 is get a home inspection. In today's day and age, there's nothing wrong with adding a home inspection condition in your offer. In fact, I recommend every buyer do this. Now, we are still in a buyer's market, so buyers have some leverage. And in most cases in 2024 and in 2025, Buyer inspection conditions are certainly a thing, so that would be one of my biggest pieces of advice that you include in your offer. And 26 is check the age of the HVAC and the major mechanicals in the house. Now, this is linked directly with your home inspection. Your home inspector will give you the age of these items as they do their home inspection. Couple that with working with an agent who has the knowledge of being able to kind of give you an idea of the age of the roof, the age of the furnace, the age of the air conditioner, as well as them getting the information from the listing agent, providing that to you to allow you to make a much more sound decision when the time comes to sign on that dotted line. And 27 is look for signs of water damage. Now, this is one of the things that I put a lot of weight on my shoulders as a buying agent, is to look for signs of any type of water. Now, here in Ontario, in the Niagara region, as you can imagine, 95% of homes have basements. And basements are great for square footage, but basements can also be a huge nuisance when it comes to water seepage or water leaks. So these are the things you really want to look out for. Again, leaning on a home inspector to provide you that sound advice. And 28 is making sure that you check the basement and the attic. Again, obviously a big part of the inspector's job is the inspector's going to do that. When we walk through a house, it's impossible for us a lot of the time to go to the attic and actually do a good inspection or take a look at the attic. So we'll lean on the inspector to do those inspections, making sure that there's no surprises, that there's proper insulation, that there's no leaks or anything of that nature. And 29 is understanding the floor plan or the overall layout or flow of the house before you buy. Now, you'd be surprised, visiting a property only one time doesn't always cut it. So I always recommend if we can get through a second time before you actually pull the trigger or firm up on that offer, just to kind of refresh your memory and make sure that it's going to suit your lifestyle. And number 30 is look beyond paint and cosmetics, especially with first-time home buyers. Get caught up in the aesthetics of a house when really the most important thing that you should be looking at is structural things and the major mechanical things in a house, like the furnace, air conditioning, roof, windows, things like that you should actually pay a little bit more attention to than easy things and upgrades that you can do, like cosmetics, like paint, trim, doors, anything of that nature. And moving on to the fourth bucket, and that is financial planning and long-term goals. Number 31 is don't be afraid to ask for utility bills or utility costs. Especially as a first-time home buyer, you may be just a little bit hesitant to understand what the overall expenses are. It will also help you with your overall monthly and annual budgeting. And 32 is understand and know what the costs of maintenance are. This is a big one. A lot of buyers underestimate what it costs to run a household, whether it's a townhouse, condo, fully detached home. Never underestimate this. Do your research, lean on your agent, find out what things are going to be priority and what you may have to look at replacing down the road. But understanding this is super important. And number 33 is make sure you factor in the cost of home insurance. Most home insurance on any home here in Ontario ranges anywhere from $80 to $120 a month, depending on the property. But I recommend, as a buyer, do your research. Call 2 or 3 different insurance companies and get those quotes before you actually buy. And 34 is plan for moving costs, another big expense when moving. Now, a lot of the time, if you're a first-time buyer or maybe you don't have a lot of stuff, hey, you may lean on friends to help you out. Maybe you're going to rent a U-Haul. You guys are going to do it yourself, and obviously that's going to keep costs down. However, if you have an existing house and you're upsizing or downsizing, in most cases, you're going to hire a moving company. A moving company can cost you anywhere from $2,500 up to $5,000, depending on the amount of stuff that you have and where you're located. And 35 is always plan for future renovations. Although you may not be thinking it at that time, make sure you look at some items and things in the house that maybe you're going to think about renovating in the future. You'd be surprised once you're living in the house how things start to come up and you want to make changes sooner than what you've actually anticipated. And as you know, renovation costs are pretty substantial in 2025. And 36 is understanding property appraisals. Now, don't put too much responsibility on yourself as a home buyer when it comes to property appraisals. That's typically arranged by the mortgage broker or the bank when arranging financing on any property. But just understanding the basics of how property appraisals work and how they affect your financing is an important thing to know. And number 37, this is a big one, buyers, is do not rely on third-party websites like Zillow or Zoocasa or any types of those sites that give you estimated values of your home. Now that data could be coming from so many various sources. My biggest piece of advice is lean on an agent who works in that immediate market. They're going to be the best ones to give you sound advice on what real market value is and what type of things are happening in that neighborhood at any given time. And number 38 is make sure you ask about past renovations or home improvements the seller has maybe made. Now lean on your agent. Your buying agent can easily go to the listing agent, ask that question. It's just good to know if there's been any recent renovations or even past renovations or improvement that the home seller has done. And better yet, if they are able to provide any type of warranties or receipts for the work that has been done, there's always great value in that as a home buyer. And 39 is consider any type of home warranties or appliance warranties. Now, depending on the age of things, depending on what it is exactly, obviously some appliances don't have transferable warranties, but asking the question doesn't hurt. And when it comes to home warranties, any home in Ontario that was built by a Tarion warranty builder typically comes with a 7-year warranty. So find out when the house was built and perhaps if there is any transferable Tarion warranty that would apply to you as a home buyer. And number 40, check for condo special assessment. So this is pertaining to anyone looking at a townhouse condo or an apartment style condo that is a condo corporation. Now this is part of the buyer's due diligence. Typically the agent, if they are putting in an offer, are going to put a condition based on having the condo documents reviewed by the buyer's lawyer ahead of time. The buyer's lawyer will review those documents and look deep into the documents to make sure there's no special assessments or any type of financial issues with the condo corp for that related property. And the last bucket we're going to talk about today is avoiding the pitfalls. And 41 is don't make emotional decisions. Now, as a realtor, we wear multiple hats, and it's our job to help ground you and make sure that no emotional decisions are being made. Buying a house is a big deal, and emotions certainly come to play. And 42 is don't skip the final walkthrough. Again, this is the job of your real estate agent. They're going to make sure they enter this clause into your agreement to purchase, usually 2 or 3 walkthroughs before closing. Now, that last walkthrough, either the day of or the day before closing, is essential. The goal behind it is to make sure that everything is as the way it was based on your agreement to purchase and that there are no surprises prior to closing day. And 43 is avoid making big financial decisions or purchases before you actually close. That means going to buy furniture, going to buy a brand new car, whatever the case may be very, very careful doing this. The last thing you want to do is affect your financing before you actually have to close on that property. And number 44 is know when to walk away. Don't force the purchase. If something's not sitting right or doesn't feel right in your gut, don't force the fact, walk away. I always give this piece of advice to my buyer clients is that there will always be another property that you will like. And 45 is understanding your conditions. Again, working with your agent is going to give you that sound advice and recommend what type of conditions that you're going to put in your offer depending on the actual scenario. The typical conditions could be financing, inspection, condo status, document review, sale of property. Those tend to be the popular ones, but again, lean on your agent and make sure they're giving you that sound advice to protect you during the negotiation process. And 46 is plan for lifestyle changes. I touched on this earlier in the video, and in many cases it is overlooked. At the given time when looking at a property, again, people's emotions tend to take over a bit, and that property may suit them at that moment. But it's always really important to look at future changes or future lifestyle changes, whether it be you're going to get married, whether you're going to have kids, whether you're downsizing. It's important to look at those things to make sure that that property will suit your lifestyle in maybe 5 to 10 years. And 47 is check local zoning laws. Now, I give this advice to buyers that are perhaps thinking of planning on doing, big renovations in the future. Maybe they're planning on doing an addition. Maybe there's something going on around the property like future development or things like that. And the zoning is what's really going to dictate what could happen around you. Or perhaps what you're allowed to do on your property. So if this is a question or you're thinking of doing this before you're buying, do your due diligence, lean on your agent. You can also use local city websites. You can call the city to find out the different zoning designations for that specific property in a pretty simple and easy fashion. And number 48 is think about noise levels. This seems pretty obvious, but again, I remind you that when you're visiting a property, sometimes you're only standing outside for 10, 15 minutes, especially, here in Canada when the weather's not that great, you're not spending a lot of time outside. So take the time, listen, see if there's any road noise nearby, if there's schools nearby, train tracks, all these things that you want to make sure you check before you actually buy. There's nothing worse than moving into your new house and realizing that there's a set of train tracks half a kilometer away and you could hear them every single day. And 49 is be prepared for a bidding war. Now, bidding wars in 2024 and 2025 really aren't a thing. However, there still are sought after properties that do generate competing offers. And I would say to you, again, lean on your real estate agent. They will give you the advice on whether or not they think there's going to be multiple offers, or if a multiple offer scenario happens, how they're going to handle it. Don't stress over it. It's not as bad as you think. It's certainly not like it was in 2021 and 2022. And last but not least, number 50 is make sure you enjoy the process. Buying a house obviously can be very, very stressful, but it can also be very, very exciting. Well, there you have it, guys. Those are your top 50 tips of buying a house in 2025. If you guys have questions about anything I talked about in this video, or perhaps you're thinking of buying or selling here in the Niagara region in the future, there's only one thing to do, and that's reach out to me. That's all for now, folks. We'll see all of you on our next video.